And so you should not be wasting connections with people that have no value. That doesn't mean that you're getting something or being a leech to them. You should be valued to them as well. It's a major lesson that I learned in law school. And that lesson alone is one reason why I say that I don't regret going.
All right. Coleman, welcome to the You Are Lawyer podcast. I am so excited to talk to you because you and I met in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at Southern University Law Center. And you were a year under me. I graduated in 2015. You graduated in 2016?
Right.
All right, cool. So I'm from Ohio. You're from Tennessee, but now you're based in Arkansas? Or are you back in Tennessee?
Right, Little Rock.
Okay. All right, cool. So I'm really excited to talk to you. You were one of the first podcast guests that I had on the show. So I think the last time I actually saw you was at my wedding in 2019.
Yeah.
And so I was reaching out to people and I was like, I'm starting this little podcast. Do you want to talk? And you were like, sure. And we had one of the strongest conversations. It still is always in like the top 15 of all downloads. And I've talked to 243 people. And I was like, yes, but I was like, I got to talk to you again because you and I have been hopping all over the country. Like when I lived in Kentucky, you lived in Kentucky for a little bit, and then you moved back to Tennessee for a bit, and then you passed another bar, and then you moved to Arkansas. So like, welcome to the show because it's literally been 6 years. What are you doing now?
Practicing law. That's really been consuming a lot of my time. It's so crazy because in law school, they used to tell us that practicing law will be your jealous mistress. I'm like, why are they trying to scare us from being attorneys by telling us that it's not going to be like that? And in reality, it absolutely is that. And so at this stage, I'm trying to figure out how to do some sort of balance, like how to get everything done. I mean, because as an attorney, people are relying on you. They're dependent on you. They really are saying, this is my problem here. So they want you to fix it, but you also have to have some sort of time for yourself because if you don't, you can get sick or burn out. And when you're burnt out, you want to care, but you don't care. So you want to make sure that you're maintaining your mental health. So at this point in my life, I'm trying to figure out what that balance is.
Yeah. And the scariest thing for lawyers when they burn out is it's not just you work, and then just tell everyone you're not talking to them for 6 weeks and take a vacation, right? A lot of attorneys turn to alcohol, they turn to drugs, they turn to gambling, they have heart attacks, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff because your body holds stress in really different ways. So tell us, what are some of the things you're trying to do right now to try to find balance?
At this point of my life, I'm trying to figure out what are my hobbies? Like, what do I even like to do? Because it's easy to forget that when you're working or you're dealing with family, it's easy to push who you are to the side. And so now it's like, what do I like to do? What is something that I like to do that I can still do, get my little zen time, but then go back to doing what I need to do as far as like maintaining my practice. That's kind of where I am right now, trying to figure out a balance. I know I like to travel, for example, but I'm not a planner. And before I became an attorney, I was a planner. I would plan the vacation, plan the trip. Now, if somebody else does not plan it for me, I'm not going. So trying to figure out how to prioritize.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I just joined Toastmasters, which is like where you go and you do public speaking training. And they were like, you're so good with social media. You should be the VP of public relations. And I was like, that's my day job. I don't want to do that for volunteer. Right. I was like, right. So for you, you're like, my entire life is helping people maneuver stuff. I'm not trying to do that on vacation. If it's not all inclusive, I'm going to just stay at home. So yeah.
Right. Like there's even me. I live so close to New Orleans and I've canceled a few New Orleans trips. Like I'll say, okay, I'll buy my ticket, but that's it. I didn't buy the room. I didn't get the car, anything like that. So it's 2 weeks before. I'm like, you know what? I have something coming up next week. I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm not going. And I do that all the time. And so I'm trying now to actually execute those plans, just like I execute things that I'm supposed to do. I should also execute things that I want to do sometimes.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, you're welcome to always come to Ohio. I remember you and we all went out to lunch with my husband in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
because Cincinnati right across the river from Kentucky. And then, but the actual last time I saw you would have been in Columbus because that was where we got married. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me this: what area of law are you practicing? Is it civil? Is it criminal? What?
I practice criminal,
Mm.
probate, and social security.
Okay.
And so those are all areas that I did not start out practicing in. Well, I started out with Social Security a little bit with my first legal job. I worked at the Center for Arkansas Legal Services, which was a nonprofit organization helping individuals with their civil issues that could not afford an attorney. I wasn't doing any probate or criminal work, and those are actually areas that I didn't even consider really wanting to work in. It just sometimes just fall into things and end up liking it. It was like I didn't even know that I would like this.
Mm-hmm.
But those are my main practice areas. And then I'm a part-time public defender too for the state.
Okay. I love that though, because it means you're
Mhm.
going to receive work on a consistent basis from all these different practice groups or practice areas.
Right, right.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
sometimes good for variety, just because
Yeah.
when looking at the same kind of case over and over again, it can get monotonous. And so being able to say, well, I'm gonna put this probate stuff down, I'm gonna pick up some criminal stuff and do work on that. It kind of keeps the creative juices flowing, and I believe it might help, at least for me, motivation a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I have three things I absolutely have to ask you because now when I interview a guest, I have a questionnaire that I send to them. And I always ask, did you enjoy going to law school and would you go again?
Yes,
What
I
about you?
definitely enjoyed law school. I enjoyed law school. Not, and I probably should be ashamed to say it, but not really scholastically. I mean, it was all right. As far as scholastics, it was more social, and I had a good time, if I'm being
Mm-hmm.
honest. But would I go again? Yes. I enjoy being an attorney, even though it's
Mm-hmm.
stressful. As far as law school goes, I enjoy the connections that I've made over the years, and that the connections that I still maintain. Law school teaches you how to look things up, being social, how networking, how valuable it is as far as career goes.
Yeah.
And before I went to law school, I didn't really have those tools of putting myself out there, and knowing that there's a benefit of that. And the benefit is not necessarily being selfish. Sometimes when you hear a benefit,
Yeah.
you think that that means I'm being a user, or trying to manipulate a situation. But at the end of the day, we all need something. Everyone needs something. And so you should not be wasting connections with people that have no value. That doesn't mean that you're getting something or being a leech to them. You should be valued to them as well. The relationship should be equal. That's a major lesson that I learned in law school. And that lesson alone is one reason why I say that I don't regret going.
I love that. I think that's a really good explanation, especially because at Southern, their entire motto is seriousness of purpose. And that is
Mm.
so true. And so you said scholastically, but like, even when I think about the building, you just kind of walked in and was like, oh, let me stand up a little bit straighter. Let me put my, like, because people were not there to like
Right.
fuck around. They were so serious. And the professors were serious, and we were carrying around, these 300-page textbooks, and where it was a really big deal.
Hmm.
But yes, socially, the networking, exactly what you would have thought, right? The fact that I have 30 and 40 lawyers in my phone if I needed to call somebody for anything, those kind of things weren't the things
Right.
that I was thinking would be the biggest benefits, but they really are because you kind of feel invincible when you get done because you're like, I know someone who can handle anything I could ever see. Or I have another legal brain that I can
Yes.
bounce ideas off of.
And if you don't have that person in the phone, that person that you do have the contact with knows somebody else who will be able to answer the question. So either
Yeah.
way, you're going to get your answer. For me, law school, as far as the scholastics, some of it, of course, like the writing and stuff, I got that while I was there. But there were a lot of aspects from law school that I did not really understand until after law school, like as far as the practice of it. And I don't know if it's because I went straight from undergrad to law school. So I didn't really have that work experience. And I feel that having worldly work experience before law school makes you do better, because I think that you're able to connect things that you're learning in class to real life experiences. Like, okay, well, yeah, something like that happened to me at work. That makes sense. I could connect those two. I didn't have those things. Like, I had like little college kid jobs, but I had never had a real job before going to law school. I was 22. So I didn't work like an 8 hour a day job before then. And so I kind of struggled making those legal connections until I really started getting into studying for the bar exam. And then becoming an attorney is when I was like, oh, that's what they meant in procedure when you file it on this day and not on that day or whatever. It just didn't make sense at that time. I'm more of a hands-on person, and law school taught me that too. That's really how I learned from getting that hands-on experience.
Okay. I think that's a really important point because law school is very theoretical. And what you're saying is you took all the theory and you held it. And then once you got to apply it, you were like, oh, that's what that part meant. Yeah.
Yes, because there are some things that even years after law school did not really make complete sense to me until I started doing it. Okay, this is easy, but in law school it seems so hard. But it was difficult for me. I realize now just because I wasn't seeing it applied, I was just reading the rule.
We weren't seeing it applied. And also, okay, you're in law school, so you've already accomplished a lot, right? The entire process of applying, getting in LSAT undergrad, and we have a level of mastery. But also in law school, that's just the first time we were learning a lot of that. And now you have 7 and 8 years of mastery of practicing, and you're like, oh, now I actually have like the repetitions of using it too. So that was for me the hardest part about law school because I'm like, I'm out. I'm a Juris Doctor. I know everything. And you're like, you don't know anything. Because
No.
when I was in law school, I wanted to do environmental law. And then I had a criminal defense internship. And I did not want to do big law at all because I came from corporate offices. And my roommate, Donning, was the one who wanted big law offices because she was like, I've worked at mom and pops. Of course, we flip-flop. And here I am in a big law office crushing it. But I was like, I never paid attention in law office practice. I didn't expect to be here, right? And so
Yep.
all of the stuff you learned in law school, you're just like, okay, I'll kind of store that for something. And then once you actually get to whatever place and position, you're like, damn, now I actually get to use it. So it is fun, but it's kind of weird how like you don't get to practice it right after. You kind of just hold it until you need it. And then when you need it, it's useful.
Right. Because some things you think that you don't realize that you put something in the back of your mind until you need it, you pull it out. You're like, oh, I forgot all about this. I forgot we learned this. And so it's just amazing how the brain works, how it knows to store some of that information for later.
Yeah. Part of it is trauma, but yes.
Oh no, definitely. That's why I said that a lot of the law school part I don't miss, but but I do miss. I miss the structure of it. I miss, of course, our classmates and stuff like that. And I miss some classes, but some of the classes, you're right, they were traumatic.
Yes. So I want to talk about entrepreneurship because you're running this law firm. So you have on multiple hats, right? You have on the attorney hat, and then you also have law firm founder, which is not, I don't mean to say that in a flippant way because those are very distinct, different jobs. If you have a paralegal, if you have someone that comes and cleans the office, right? Your manager as well. Do you feel that law school prepared you for running a business?
No. Could be partially my fault because I wouldn't say fault. I would say that it could just be that this is not what I planned for myself in law school. I did not go to law school planning to have my own business. I went to law school because I said I wanted to be a prosecutor. But then I went and visited Angola. We used to have the opportunity at Southern to intern at the Attorney General's office. And so I interned at the Attorney General's office my second year. And a part of that internship, we would go to Angola, which Angola is one of the biggest prisons in Louisiana. It might be the biggest prison in Louisiana. But we went. And when we went there, I was meeting people who were in their 50s at the time. They'll be in their 60s now, but they were in their 50s and had committed crime when they were teenagers and they were still there and they were not about to get out. And so that changed my whole trajectory because I was like, I can't do that. And so I said, well, now what am I going to do? So the rest of the time I was in law school, I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated. I didn't know that I was going to have my own business. It's just something that God had put on my heart later on. I was like, that's not what I said I was going to do. And so I never took the classes to prepare myself for owning a business, because I think you just mentioned the class, law office practice. I forgot all about that class. But that's something that probably could have prepared me for having a business. But like I said, that I already knew in law school, I'm not having my own business. I want to work for the prosecutor's office, or I wanted to maybe work for the Innocence Project. I'm working on cold cases. I wanted to do something like that. This is not what I planned to do. God told me that I could do it. He told me I'd be successful, so I jumped out and did it. But this wasn't my plan.
So I'm smiling because that's really surprising to me, because you had a writing company that you ran, and writing and editing business. And then you also were interested in real estate or flipping houses, and that is entrepreneurship. So you kind of had these little like baby steps of practice before you opened your own firm.
Yeah. And then my dad, when I was younger, my dad had his own business. He had a photography business in Memphis. My great grandmother, she had her own catering company. So my uncle, he owned his own grocery store. So I was raised around people who owned their own businesses. I did not know when I was younger that I would want to own my own business. I never really thought about it. But now that I do, I work really hard to try to maintain it, because I don't want to go back to having to work full time for someone else. I work part time for the state as a public defender, and I love that. But I don't want that to be my full time job, having to answer to somebody.
Yeah, I am the same way. I did not know that. Podcasting taught me the importance and the benefits of entrepreneurship, because I remember when people started to ask me if I could help them launch a podcast, and then they were like, well, can I pay you to talk about my business or my product on your podcast? And so I remember when I replaced my salary from the law firm, but I was like, am I allowed to not work at the law firm? Like, I literally had to give myself permission to do something else, because I was like, I don't want to run a business though. This is turning into a business. I want it to be fun, but it was a
Right.
business. And I was like, okay, so
Mhm.
wait. But what I think is interesting, and I keep seeing memes about it now, where people are like, I have to work for myself, because the idea of asking another person if I can take a lunch break is stupid. And I hadn't thought about it like that. And I was like, we did used to be on teams like, hey, going to lunch. And somebody could definitely
Right.
say to you, now's not a good time. Can you go in an hour? And you would be like, okay. And that is
Mhm.
ridiculous. Like, it sounds
Well,
so weird.
it is, but then I also think about when you are an employee, I feel like you have more freedom than you do as a business owner. Because as an employee, you can wake up and say you don't feel like going to work and don't go. If you have the time, if you have the PTO, you can say, I'm just not feeling it today. And so I'm not going. You can't say that as a employer. You have to be there. You know,
Yeah.
you got to go. Even when you're out of town, when you're an employee, you can say, I'm out of town. Don't go. I don't want to talk. Or you don't even have to say that. I told you I was out of town. I'm not answering this. But when you're an employer, nobody cares that you're out of town. You still have to answer it. You never 100% have all of your time. But there's pluses and minuses to that. And so I think that's when it's like a way of weighing your options to see what's important to you.
Yeah, because a major plus is all the money is yours for the most part, right? You have to divvy it
Yeah.
up in your trust accounts and escrow and pay people, but like that check comes in and you're like, oh, that's to me,
It's
that's
like
mine. So
it's like yeah.
I'm excited for the third time we chat when you have found that balance, because I will take a whole day off as the business owner. Like I only record on Fridays. And so people are like, I really want to talk to you. I have time on Tuesday afternoon. I only record Fridays, right? So I do lean
Yeah.
into the flexibility of running my own thing. And I mean, it's going to have to be someone big like Michelle Obama. And I'm like, I can be available on a Tuesday. But other than that,
No, exactly.
I'm like,
Tuesday night.
no.
When? Mhm.
Right. So I hope that you are able to find that balance, because I'm just going to challenge you to flip that, because with you as the business owner, I'm sure you can set up some things and delegate enough that you can be like, today I'm off, and really be off.
Sometimes it's more work to orchestrate the off day. And I
It
think
is.
that's where to me it's just like I'm just not even gonna worry about it. Because sometimes you're like, okay, I'm gonna be off Friday. But if I'm gonna be off on Friday, so I'm working till 2 in the morning on Friday morning, so I could be off Friday. Well, now I'm tired. So I done slept most of Friday because I'm tired from working 15, 16 hours Thursday for me to be off on Friday. It would have been easier for me just to go to work Friday. So sometimes it's that's like, it's not even worth me having me planning it to be off is more worth than I feel like really giving it. And then sometimes you look at the calendar and you might say, okay, I actually can do it and be off. I was telling one of my friends that when I was a legal services attorney, I would have a hearing and I'll be like, oh, I'm so tired after this one little hearing. I'm not doing any more work for the rest of the day. And I wouldn't. But as like now in my practice, a hearing, that's nothing. You go to that hearing, you go back to work. So it's just, there's pluses and minuses to it. I don't regret owning a business, but there's definitely, good things and bad.
Yeah, no, that's true. Because even as I say that, I was telling my friend, I was like, I probably work 4 hours a day. And she was like, yeah, that's pretty good. But that's not true, because I was up recording. I have a Real Housewives podcast, and I record with my friend, and he has a 9 to 5, and we literally sit down and record 11 p.m. to 2 in the morning. So I just did that last night or this morning. So I might do 4 hours during the day, but then the nighttime, I'm pretty much still up doing all the other stuff. So yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think especially when your name is on the door and you run it, you want to see the work done. So it's not really like, well, I did the stuff during the day, so now I'm off. It's kind of like you take a break, spend some time with your family, maybe eat some dinner, and then you go back to work, because I just like to see the task done. And I know it's my responsibility because I run the business. So
Right. And then you get that benefit. It's like, okay, good, I did this and I did it on time. That's me now. Like, I'm at a place now where I'm like, okay, I did it on time, and don't let me do it early. So I'm like, what? That's the satisfaction, because you know that means your name is looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so another thing that I typically ask every guest that comes on: what advice would you give a young lawyer, 5 years practicing or less, or a law student, about what they could do with their law degree?
I'll say, for the law student, the advice I would tell a law student is to diversify the type of internships that you have. Don't have your internship at the same place every year. I would say that you want to try different areas of law, because what you learn in your internships, I feel like that experience, you take more of that to your career than necessarily what you learned in the classroom. And so your internships are important. I would say that to a law student. But I'd also say to keep your options open about your career. So if you're going, like I was telling you earlier, that I was going with the idea of being a prosecutor, but something happened that derailed my plan. I wasn't interested in that anymore. Keep your eyes open to learning new areas of law, because you may learn about an area that you didn't even know you were interested in. Like, I practice in areas that I didn't intend to practice in. I knew that I liked probate in law school, but I didn't really think I was going to practice it. I just thought I liked it. I didn't know that it would be something I'd look at every day. So just keep your eyes open, because you could be blocking yourself out by being so narrow. Someone who practicing 5 years or less, it actually just made 6 years for me yesterday. Yesterday was my 6 years. But I would say ask questions and don't pressure yourself into knowing all of the answers. If you have to look something up, say you have to look it up. Don't just make something up. That happens a lot. I find that a lot of attorneys feel like, because they think that people think they're supposed to know everything, that they'll just say something and then you'll look it up and it's wrong. If you don't know it, say you don't know it and that you need to look it up. That's probably the biggest advice I could take, that I could give, is to, if you don't know, say that. Because I deal with that often. People saying things and I look it up later, and that's just not right.
And then you have to find a polite way to say, upon further review, you lied.
But I think that it's because just in the world, people think that attorneys are supposed to know everything. And then people will shame an attorney for not knowing. I thought you were an attorney, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'll be the first to tell you, if it's something about some, like, setting up a business, and I have a business and somebody else had to do it for me. We learned that in law school about, like, business entities, and don't ask me anything about that. I don't know about that. Don't ask me. But some people, as you know, some will just, well, actually, S corp, like, don't ask me anything about an S corp or anything like that. But If you don't know, look it up. So you need to look it up. It makes you look like someone who's not a good resource, and you don't want to be that.
To admit that you don't know something, I think it makes you more trustworthy because you're not embarrassed to not know something. Like, you don't have to be a walking encyclopedia just because you're an attorney. And the business code changes all the time. Laws change all the time. Like, I would be a fool, and I was when I got out of law school and I thought I knew everything. I would be a fool to be like, yes, I know Kyla, you know everything about the laws from 2015 when you graduated. It is 2026, ma'am. A lot of stuff has
Right.
changed. And so
Mm-hmm.
I would be silly to say, yeah, of course I'm the expert. Yeah, no, maybe 10 years ago in that specific class based on that teacher. All right,
Family.
really cool. Okay, so a couple of things. The next time you talk to your sister, I need you to tell her thank you for me, because when we were chatting, you had told me she had a YouTube channel, and I looked it up and I was like, wait, she's doing like hair reviews. And I started doing book reviews on YouTube because of her channel. Cause I was like,
Oh, had to
why
tell
would
her for
she
sure.
do hair reviews when there's so many out here? But I wanted to do book reviews, but I was like, girl, there are so many people doing book reviews, but people love them. And I actually was just on the Tamron Hall show with a feature from one of my blogs they found.
Congratulations, Colin. That's a big deal.
So yeah, she, like, your family is important to me. Okay, if she can be bold enough to do this, I can do this. Okay, all right, let's go. And then I recently started writing a novel because you gave me a journal as one of my wedding gifts. And I've been using journals for years. And I went back and I was reading it because of I have really good records of the pandemic and being pregnant. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
God bless Coleman, because I had that one line a day journal, and I have some really good detailed notes about like parenting in the pandemic and stuff. So I'm gonna have to cut you a little royalty check when all of this stuff goes through.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Listen, I'll use that loyalty check and I'll be off work.
Yes. In fact, I won't even do a check. I'm gonna be like, here's a flight, non-refundable, go somewhere. I think there's a lot of value. And for everyone that's listening, even if you go back and listen to our interview from 6 years ago, literally from 6 years ago, I think you'll just be surprised at like the maturity and the mastery that we both have in how we've just allowed our careers to kind of flow and change. And we've accepted all of the risk, and we've literally made lemonade out of lemons. And so I'm really proud of you. And I'm glad that you're here today. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Colin. I really appreciate you inviting me. When you invited me, I was like, it's been 6 years already, but I'm happy to be back because a lot has
Yes.
changed.
I don't know whether or not you're accepting clients, but even if someone has questions for you and they just want to reach out or say hello or say, hey, I heard you on the podcast, because I've heard that happens a time or two. People get hired to do different things. And they say, hey, I just heard about you when you are a lawyer. So I'm excited to bring some more attention to you.
Well, I appreciate it. My firm is the law offices of J. Paul Coleman. We practice throughout the state of Arkansas and in Memphis. Criminal, probate, and Social Security. We are also starting to take veteran affairs cases too. So we're taking VA cases as well.
I love that. I love that.
All right, no problem, Colin, and thank you for meeting with me. It's so good to talk to you. I hope everybody's doing well on your end and everything's going well in Columbus.
It is. It really is. You got some early time because we recorded early. So go stare out the window for like an hour or something.
No, look, I'll find something to do for sure. All right, Kyla.
All right. Bye.
All right, I'll talk to you later. Good to see you.